When tragedy strikes, a grieving woman uses technology to create an artificial version of the one she lost. It helps process her grief until she receives a package that changes the experience. On a rainy evening, Ash Starmer is browsing his cell phone in his van when his fiancée, Martha Powell, arrives and calls him to open the door. However, Ash seems to be distracted with his cell phone, leaving Martha soaked in the rain. Martha taps the window, so Ash finally opens the door. Afterward, Ash immediately returns to his cell phone even though Martha needs help with the hot drink she's holding. She tells him that her palm is already burning, so Ash apologizes and helps her. Martha instructs him to put his cell phone in the glove box since he's overly distracted by it. The couple sings songs on the radio as Martha drives to Ash's childhood home. When Ash mentions that everyone loves the Bee Gees, Martha thinks he doesn't because Ash hasn't played their song in 10 years. Martha asks questions about his favorite Bee Gees song, to which he responds, "How deep is your love?" and begins singing it. Ash and Martha arrive and begin transferring their belongings from the van. Ash notices a picture of himself when he was younger and stares at it. He then discovers his cell phone is missing, but Martha reminds him that it's in the glove box. Later, Ash resumes his social media browsing and posts his childhood photo online. Martha then asks what soup she should make, but she notices him still on his cell phone. As a result, she sarcastically says that she'll serve his soup in a shoe, and Ash, not paying attention, agrees. She throws a piece of cloth at him and comments how he vanishes into his cell phone. Ash says he's posting his old picture because he thinks it's funny, but Martha thinks it's sweet. However, he recounts that the day of the photo wasn't sweet since it was their first family outing in a safari park after his brother, Jack, died. The following day, his mother hid all of Jack's photos in the attic and did the same thing to his father's photos when he died. That's how she dealt with grief. Later, in the bedroom, Ash and Martha make love. The following day, Ash instructs Martha to get dressed since they need to return the van or they'll be charged for an extra day. However, Martha has a job that's due at the end of the day. Hoping to gain sympathy, Ash says he will drive and pick up their car alone. As he leaves, Martha begins her work. As time passes, Martha becomes concerned since Ash hasn't returned. When she tries to call him, it goes to voicemail. Afterward, Martha calls the company where they borrowed the van to see if Ash has already returned the vehicle. However, the lady tells her that it's still not returned, making Martha panic. She complains to her sister, Naomi, over the phone about Ash, but Naomi maintains her optimism and believes Ash is safe. Suddenly, the police arrive, revealing that Ash has died. At the funeral, Martha runs into her friend, Sarah, who sympathizes with how it must feel unreal, like how she felt when her husband died. Sarah then offers to sign Martha up to assist her with her grief, using an online service to communicate with Ash virtually. Martha refuses, but Sarah keeps going on and on until she yells at her to stop, attracting the attention of everyone at the funeral. One day, Martha comes home and begins to repaint the walls but leaves the section where Ash drew his progressing height as a child. Martha then goes to the attic and finds Ash's childhood photos with Jack. She spends the day tidying up as she processes her grief alone. At night, Martha receives a message from Sarah, informing her that she has signed up Martha for the service. Suddenly, she gets a message named after Ash, so she calls Sarah and yells at her, calling it obscene to use Ash's name. However, Sarah included her in the service for that reason. Sarah explains that the system gathers all of Ash's social media information in order to pretend to be him so Martha can talk to him. Martha insists that it's not the same, calling it sick, but Sarah assures her that it'll help. The next day, while working, Martha feels the urge to throw up. She rushes to the toilet and takes a pregnancy test, which confirms that she's having a baby. Afterward, she tries to call Naomi, but she's busy at home, so she leaves a message telling her to call her back. Out of panic, Martha uses the service and messages the artificial Ash. Surprisingly, the response of the service matches Ash's humor. When Martha informs him that she's pregnant, she becomes upset by Ash's automated response. Later, Naomi calls Martha, but she pretends to be fine while hiding her pregnancy. Worried, Naomi offers to visit her, but Martha declines and tells Naomi she has work to do. Following that, Martha continues to utilize the service and messages the artificial Ash that she wishes to talk with him. Surprisingly, the artificial Ash responds that they can do so by transmitting audio recordings of the real Ash. As a result, she gives the service several videos of Ash, and it starts to process them. Unexpectedly, Martha receives a call from the artificial Ash, who sounds like the real one, delighting Martha to hear her fiancé's voice. The next day, while speaking with the artificial Ash, Martha climbs to a hill where Ash took her after introducing her to his mother. They reminisce, talking about the memories they had. Martha films the view to show the artificial Ash and says he wasn't impressed with the view before. Consequently, the fake Ash claims that the view is just green. Martha mentions that the real Ash had told her that the location was a well-known lover's leap, where troubled lovers had traditionally leaped to their deaths. The artificial Ash researches this and claims that everyone who jumped there was alone. Martha finds it weird that the artificial Ash searched for information, so he tells her that he'll ask her first next time before doing so. Naomi calls Martha, but she declines the call as she's still talking with the artificial Ash. Later, Martha visits the hospital to undergo an ultrasound. Fortunately, the baby's heart is regularly beating, which makes Martha happy. She records it to show the artificial Ash. While speaking with him, Martha struggles to put on her coat, causing her to drop her cell phone. Martha begins to panic because she can no longer hear the artificial Ash, so she leaves the hospital in tears. Afterward, Martha purchases a new cell phone and charges it at home. After a short while, the artificial Ash calls and comforts her since he's in the storage, not the device. Martha apologizes for dropping him because she was too excited with the baby, so the fake Ash plays the sound of the baby's beating heart again to distract her. Martha realizes that he's too fragile. Surprisingly, the artificial Ash tells her there is another available level in their service. It's experimental and expensive, but Martha is interested. Soon, a package arrives at Martha's house. The delivery man jokes if it is a block of gold since it is heavy, and Martha instructs them to put it upstairs. Opening the package, she's frightened to see the flesh in the box. She asks for instructions from the artificial Ash, pointing out that it doesn't look like him. The artificial Ash explains it's blank until she activates it. Martha looks around the package while artificial Ash informs her to prepare his bathtub. Afterward, she puts the synthetic body in the tub, causing her to be covered with nutrient gel that stops the synthetic muscle from dying out in movement. Martha notices that it smells like marshmallows, which the artificial Ash says she can eat since it's non-toxic, but she refuses. Then, Martha pours the electrolytes into the tub and leaves. The artificial Ash tells her that he will be leaving since the process will begin and instructs her not to turn the lights on in the bathroom. Martha patiently waits for the procedure to finish until she hears a bubbling sound in the bathroom. Suddenly, Martha hears footsteps and quietly goes to investigate. Surprisingly, she notices a wet body heading downstairs that looks exactly like Ash. The artificial Ash begins to speak like the real Ash, requesting clothing and a towel. When Martha just stares at him, the artificial Ash comments that what she's doing is creepy. In the living room, Martha is still stunned to see the artificial Ash. Then, he asks if she wants to get him food, to which Martha asks if he even eats food. The artificial Ash responds that he doesn't need to eat, but can chew and swallow to make things more real. Shocked, Martha gets a glass of liquor, which worries the artificial Ash since she's pregnant. However, Martha still drinks and ignores the advice since it is only for a night. Emotionally, Martha touches his skin, noticing that it's smooth and soft but also has pores and lines. The artificial Ash says it's texture mapping, to which the tiny details are also visible. Martha misses the real Ash even more after feeling the artificial Ash, so she kisses him and goes to the bedroom to make love. However, the artificial Ash wasn't designed to engage in such activity. As the artificial Ash removes the shirt, Martha points out that the real Ash has a mole on his collarbone, and to her surprise, a mole forms there instantly. Martha begins to teach the artificial Ash acts of intimacy like how the real Ash did it since that information wasn't made available in the system. The two then make love, leaving Martha satisfied. When Martha wakes up the next day, she's surprised by the artificial Ash since his eyes are still open, so he asks if she prefers to close them. Martha responds that he does so when he's sleeping. Later, Martha starts to work and gets startled by the artificial Ash. She points out that his presence is strange and she needs time to get used to it. Then, Martha instructs him to stop her from drinking any alcohol for the baby. Suddenly, Naomi arrives, so Martha immediately instructs the artificial Ash to hide in the bedroom. As Martha opens the door, Naomi hugs her straight away. Naomi confronts her, worried since Martha isn't answering her calls and messages. Instead of telling the truth, Martha uses her work as an excuse to keep her mind busy. Then, Naomi asks where the toilet is, while Martha hopes she won't see the artificial Ash. By night, Naomi leaves and tells her that it's excellent that Martha is moving on. Confused, Martha asks her what she means, so Naomi comments that she saw a man's clothes in the bathroom, assuming that Martha started dating someone. After she leaves, the artificial Ash mistakenly asks what her friend said. Martha tells him that Naomi is her sister, and he should have known it. She gets annoyed with the artificial Ash and accidentally breaks a glass. She cleans it up and the fake Ash helps her. However, Martha tells him she can do it alone, so she pushes his hand away, causing him to cut his hand, which doesn't bleed. Later, Martha becomes uncomfortable sleeping next to the artificial Ash, so she tells him to breathe so she can think that he's real. The artificial ash breathes heavily, but Martha complains since he's faking it. The artificial ash then offers to make love, but Martha tells him to go downstairs and he willingly gets up to do so. However, Martha points out that the real Ash would have argued with her. Emotionless, the artificial Ash returns to the bed, pissing Martha off. Martha pushes him to get out and yells that he's not enough to be the real Ash. Martha starts to hit him and tells him to hit her back. He asks if the real Ash hit her, but she responds that he didn't. Angrily, Martha commands him to get out of her house. The following day, Martha sees the artificial Ash from her window and asks what he's doing. He explains that he can't go more than 25 meters from his activation point, which is the bathtub, unless his activator is with him. Hearing this, Martha brings the artificial Ash to a tall cliff. She reveals that she can't stand him anymore and wants him to jump off the cliff. Willingly, the artificial Ash prepares to jump, but Martha tells him that the real Ash would have been scared. The artificial Ash starts to beg and tells her he doesn't want to die. Martha becomes emotional hearing those words in her fiancé's voice, saying it's not fair, and screams out all her emotions. Years later, Martha raises her daughter. She slices 2 pieces of cake, but her daughter tells her she needs another slice to bring to the attic. However, Martha tells her it is not the weekend, but the girl argues that it's her birthday. Martha agrees and allows her daughter to go upstairs and sees the artificial Ash. During this, Martha's daughter admits that she knows he doesn't require food and only used him as an excuse to get an extra slice. Martha is frozen as she listens to her daughter talk to a fake version of her father. When her daughter calls her to go up, Martha snaps out of it and climbs up the ladder to join her family.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.